In this next section, we're going to be looking at how to write equations of lines in standard form. There's no direct way to go from given information like a point or a slope or 2 points or the equation of a line and go directly to standard form. You're always going to need to start with one of the other forms, either slope-intercept or point-slope, and then rearrange with inverse operations. Standard form looks like ax plus by equals c, and there are some requirements on what a, b, and c can look like. First of all, you'll notice that the x and the y are both on the left-hand side of the equal sign. The a, b, and the c all have to be integers, which means that the coefficients cannot be decimals or fractions. And more specifically, the a value has to be a positive number, so it can't be a negative value. You'll remember in an earlier unit we solved equations with fractions and decimals by eliminating them, and you might recall that the way we got rid of fractions in a problem was that we multiplied by the common denominator, and the way that we got rid of decimals in a problem is we looked at the furthest out the decimal went, like if it went to the tenths place or the hundredths place or the thousandths place, and then we would multiply both sides by either 10 or 100 or 1,000 or however many decimal places it went out to. We're going to be repeating that here today. So let's start with, here's an equation that is in slope-intercept form, and I'd like to write it in standard form. Remember, standard form means ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c all have to be integers, and a has to be positive. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to add or subtract things on both sides so that I get the x and the y both on the left-hand side of the equal sign. I already have the y on the left-hand side of the equal sign, so I'm not going to do anything with that. But I do need to figure out how to get the x over to the other side. So I'm going to use an inverse operation. Right now that is a positive 2/5 x, so I'm going to subtract 2/5 x from both the left and the right-hand side of the equation. Now, on the left, I get y minus 2/5 x. They're not like terms, so I can't combine them. On the right, positive 2/5 x minus 2/5 x is 0, and then 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Next, I'll notice that the x comes before the y, so I'm going to use my addition property, commutative property of addition. I'm going to change the subtraction into plus the opposite and then rewrite it as negative 2/5 x plus y equals negative 3. Then I'm going to eliminate the fraction by multiplying by the least common denominator. The only denominator is a 5, so the least common denominator would be a 5. I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 5. On the left, I'll have to distribute. 5 times negative 2/5 x is negative 2x, and 5 times y is 5y. On the right, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And one last condition, remember we said in this standard form that a had to be positive. So right now, my a value is negative 2, and I can change the sign on something by multiplying by negative 1. So I'm going to distribute this negative 1 on the left, which would give me positive 2x minus 5y. And then on the right, negative times a negative is a positive. So 2x minus 5y equals 15 is how I would rewrite this question in standard form.